go back to this year, this started, this was in 2009. Did Michael Santarangelo? Okay, we got the shots coming. And Nubix they instigated this whole thing back in 2009 at Shmoocon. And this was literally held at the end of a hallway, so we've gone from the end of a hallway to the main room here. And so I always like to think one of the things with the Firetalks is we have judges here, and we give prizes for speakers. So the first one is the 500 level, which is going to be from Cobalt, right? $500 prize. And the second one is the level prize. It's $250 prize for second place. And this is GG Ninja and Web Preacher. Are they here? This is the community, as they might find it. So I guess they're not here. I thought I saw him. He had a long flight, right? And then for the third place prize is Tigris. Silver, so $125 prize for third prize. So definitely check them out. They're always hiring, especially in DC areas. So you definitely want to check them out. And also associated with their ventures, SCCM. So throughout the Firetalks, I'm going to be giving out some awesome prizes, and so that's so they're the sponsors for that. Volunteers, and I may have missed a few because some people joined at the last minute. Jason and Oliver was sitting here to my left. Thank you, sir. And Crypto Joe Klein, who joined in at the last minute. Great. Yeah. He is the person that provided this. So. And then kind of pulled together some last minute celebrity judges here. So Jason Oliver. We have Mr. Brian Krebs. Mr. Jason E. Street. Oh, you are. And of course, Mr. Space Road.
It's out there.
It's Space Road. I'm going to have people change that thing.
This is the schedule for this evening. With Matt Nelson, who's going to be up first talking about red team updates. Travis Krinsky is going to be talking about jailbreaking to a radio. Dan Pierce is going to be talking about cheatbugs.net. Wendy Knox, she is actually a third-year law student. She's going to be talking about failure to warn when you might get phoned. So that looks to be interesting. Michael Glassman is going to be talking about Great Theft. And then DA667 is going to be talking about FU Pixelate. And Ron Bose is going to be talking about DNS-C2, which is DNS cat for those that people. So with that, I'm going to get off the stage. I'm going to have each of the judges introduce themselves while Matt gets, thank you.
Alright, I'm Jason Oliver and practice time leaders.
I'll pass it on to these fine folks.
Alright, for all judges, Credit Security, independent investigator, doing
we offer those right here. That's our baptized. But space was
Yeah, I think my wife would have something to say about that. Space Road, I don't know, I've been doing this for a long time.
Progress.
Good to go? All right. How's everybody doing? Great? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get into it. My name is Matt. I'm a penetration tester and red teamer for Various Group's Adaptive Threat Division. I'm an active developer on the PowerShell Empire project. This is my second time speaking, so be gentle. This con is probably older than I am for my workmates who troll me because I'm young. And then Indiana corn farmer turned hacksaw. Not really. Again, it's what happens when you work with trolls. What this talk is, oh boy. That was good. All right, so, yeah. So what this talk is about abusing SCCM for malicious purposes, and then how some admins fail at securing it. The primary talk, Dave Kennedy did a really great talk in the past on using SCCM for mass pwnage on a network. What I'm going to cover is more of a red team strategic use of SCCM in the sense that you're going to target workstations in a very strategical and surgical manner. So kind of setting the stage. There are kind of some assumptions that have to be made for you to fully understand what's going on here. Is that domain admin is not win all the time. You don't have to have domain admin to be able to access SCCM. This talk is going to assume that you have RDP access to a box that runs SCCM. This doesn't have to be the case, but for the time constraint talk, this is just going to how it's be. Sure. That's actually on the next slide. I'll go ahead and cover it now. SCCM, Microsoft System Center Configuration Manager, it allows you to deploy packages to workstations in a corporate environment. Again, if you administer SCCM as a domain admin, you're failing. That's not how you should do it. I got a lot of pushback when I dropped a blog post about that. So if you're doing SCCM as a domain admin, stop. So like I just said, what is SCCM? You can distribute packages and applications to clients, and it is controlled in a agent kind of server architecture. And the way that it's set up is you've got a central site, and then you've got distribution points. And so your central site is where you administer it, and then that will push updates out to your distribution points where your agents will call back to. And basically, short term, it is an internal RAT if you can get access to it. So, like I previously mentioned, in the enterprise, it's typically set up as you've got one home or primary SCCM server, and then they are pushed out, or the updates and applications are pushed out to different distribution points. And this is typically administered in the sense that you've got a group that's allowed to administer SCCM. So if you've got domain admins that are administering SCCM and SCCM gets pwned, you obviously lost. So in most mature environments, they've got controlled groups that are able to access the SCCM servers. Typically a server's account, not always. It's the way you should do it. The kind of least privilege, only give user accounts access to what they need to. Admins are going to admin, so the way this talk isn't going to cover how to get access to SCCM, it's how to use it in a strategic manner to cover your tracks and maintain access after you've embedded yourself within a network. So this is kind of a diagram of what it looks like. You've got a primary site server that pushes out to all the distribution points, and it just replicates back and forth any package updates that you make. Then those clients will check into the closest distribution point in relation to them. So you've got, ones in Russia will call back to whatever distribution point's closest to them. This I've seen in the wild, which nauseates me, is there's a thing called right-click tools, which admins will install on their workstations, connect to the SCCM server to do their administration. People will install this on their actual site server and then RDP in to do the administration. And what this allows you to do is do things like list running processes on a remote host, drop into a system level command shell on a remote host, query system information, query the registry, interact with the registry, do all kinds of really weird things, and if somebody were to get access to that, it's not something that you particularly want them having control of. And so what this enables you to do is, if this is installed and you're able to get access to it, you get basically full control of every host that's checking into it, meaning that you don't need to even deploy malware. You can just sit on this box and do as you wish with it. And that's what it looks like. It does use psexec, which isn't sexy as far as red teaming goes. But if it's installed, it's not there by default. The psexec binary isn't. If they put it there and you can use it, it's not going to look weird because they use it for normal operations. So why would you use SCCM in red teaming? Like I mentioned earlier, it's very distributed and it looks very normal as far as the kind of traffic that's generated. The agents check into the server, they download any packages or applications that are available, and they execute them. So they're just dying. If you get access, they're dying to run your code. It allows you to live off the land. That's a concept that's been really pushed in the past as far as using PowerShell for post-exploitation. You can do it in a very strategic and targeted manner in the sense that you can become a system administrator in a malicious sense without having to push implants all over the place. So to kind of limit the risk of getting caught, live off the land, become a system administrator, and don't act like a typical adversary, because that's what they're looking for. And SCCM is nice because it collects a lot of information about the hosts on the network. And this kind of allows you to identify juicy targets instead of just popping every box in the enterprise. So if you know that Joe Schmo's a domain admin and here's his host name, you can just look it up and then deploy a package to it, which might contain whatever malicious code that you want. It also acts as a persistence mechanism in the sense that if you're using PowerShell to run or to download and execute malicious code, as long as that package is deployed, the agent will run that code every time it checks in. So whatever interval the enterprise has it set at. The first step, SCCM, you'd be hunting. So some organizations, not most, some of them will do user-to-device mapping. It's not the most accurate because admins have to go in and add it, but administrators have to be able to identify what users are on what workstation. So some administrators will do that via Active Directory. Others will do it via just descriptions and the actual organizational units. Some people will go in and actually add a username to a host in SCCM. And that allows us to search for a user and get their host name, or vice versa, search for a host name and get what user is logged in. And so the way that, once you've got your target, the way that you would actually abuse this for a malicious purpose is create a package. Normally, people would say you would push a bat down, it would run on disk, delete itself, and all is good. The good way to do it is to use PowerShell. And then the way SCCM works is it hosts an openly accessible folder to where the agents have to be able to download their packages from. So if you just write to that folder, just a text file, any code that you want, typically PowerShell. So in this example, I've got a PowerShell Empire stager. And then you just create the package, and the only command in that package will look something like this. So it'll just be call cmd.exe, and then PowerShell, and they'll grab the content of that text file and execute it. And this is really nice because the payload itself is fetched over UNC. It doesn't look super crazy because this is how kind of SCCM typically works as far as grabbing its applications. Normally it'll grab like an MSI or AXCV UNC and then execute it. So you can read more here, and there's a lot more steps as far as creating the application. So that's my blog. I dropped a post on it. You can read more about that there. And so I've got a demo. Lots of first day on the internet kid because apparently that's what I look like. Whatever. I mean, it may or may not be. I don't know. I was too young to. So this demo is basically going to cover what a deployed application will look like, and then I'll simulate an agent checking in, and then what it'll look like after it executes the code. So this is what the interface kind of looks like. You've got all of your hosts. In a typical environment, they'll be different. You're going to have groups to where you can take hosts and throw them in a group. And when you do this, it allows you to group your targets and then push an application to those targets. And then this is just showing you can look up the primary user. In this sense, I'm interested in Will. So I've got his host name, and I've got his actual computer object in a group called targets. And I've created an application, and this is what it'll look like. It's just a typical script application. No detection method, nothing. We've got the installation program itself as cmd.exe, which calls PowerShell, which will do a get content on the text file, and then pipe it to execute. This is what the stager itself looks like. Like I said, the folder itself is publicly available. Most organizations that I've seen don't lock down the permissions on that, so anybody can write to it. I've seen as much as actual credentials stored in script notes sitting in the OpenShare. So how you get access to SCCM is up to you, but using it for long-term persistence and code execution is good. So this is simulating a check-in. Check-ins happen at certain predetermined intervals. It's kind of a pain waiting for an Empire or for a SCCM agent to check in. So if you just click to run the application check-in, it'll check in for you. And it just downloads it over UNC, passes it over to IEX, and that's it. It runs completely in memory. It doesn't touch disk. The only artifact that would be left is if they go in and look. None of the engagements I've been on, they've actually caught using SCCM in that typical sense. So it's a nice way to kind of maintain low and slow communications. You know, if you just have one box that you want to just keep access on, and then you want to come back later and push agents to whatever other host you want to, you can. So that is just about it. I'm probably running a little fast because I talk really fast. Feel free to hit me up. That's my Gmail, and then enigma0x3 on Twitter and GitHub, and then the PowerShell Empire channel on Freenode. That's my blog. A few references. Like I said, David Kennedy did a really good talk. If you haven't already, go and watch it on owning one to rule them all. So it's mass compromise using SCCM. And then there's the post that I dropped on using it in a targeted manner for red team engagements. So thank you. No, if you guys have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. I have about 2 minutes left.
So, to you and all the other presenters, the judges can't see the slides. So, I'm speaking until the entire slides.
If you guys want to look at them, you can. So, future presenters need to know. Okay. Gotcha. Well, that sucks. Okay. Sure. So getting access to SCCM is a whole other beast. If you get domain admin and environment, you're obviously going to have access to everything. So it's not a matter of how do you get access, it's a matter of once you own that network, how do you remain in that network without being detected. So this is just an alternate way of being able to jump back in or recompromise hosts as you need without looking like a typical adversary would. Any other questions? Yep. So he was asking what's left on the host as far as log files and stuff like that after an application executes. It will log. In the log file itself, it's a very nasty large log file in the sense that it logs everything. So if you were very, very, very worried about that, you could go in and clean the log file. Just delete the lines that contained your malicious application. I don't know of any organizations currently that are mature enough to actually, A, know that SCCM can be used in such a malicious sense, and then B, go in and actually monitor those log creations. Typically, when you deploy an application and it contains an MSI or something, it will download that application folder to disk, and then it will execute it, and then it'll delete it. So in that sense, if you're going to deploy an EXE or something of that nature, it would leave an artifact that could be forensically recovered. If you're using PowerShell, the only thing that starts up is PowerShell, and then it doesn't bring the contents down. It just reaches out over UNC and grabs the content from the share and executes it. So it's not bringing it down to the host. It's just fetching the contents of itself over UNC. Good. All right. If you have any more questions, feel free to grab me in the hall afterward.